Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Aviators South Africa podcast, Aviation Sunday, episode 13. My name is Kabir and I'm the host on the show with Warwick. Today on the show we'll be joined by our fellow aviation enthusiasts Thomas and Aviation.
Today on the show we'll be talking about the future of narrow-body airliners, US passenger numbers plateauing, and Heathrow T5 is becoming a OneWorld hub. Send us your questions at theaviatorsouthafrica@gmail.com or in the comments section below for future Q&As. Enjoy the podcast.
This episode is in association with African Pilot magazine. Subscribe to Africa's finest aviation magazine today. For more information, go to www.africanpilot.co.za. Producing this content takes a lot of time and effort. Therefore, why don't you become a member of our channel through Buy Me a Coffee or on our website? This will assist us financially and allow us to continue providing quality aviation content to South Africa and beyond. As a member of our channel, you will receive members-only aviation tech content reviews, get early YouTube videos and podcasts, and even get featured on our podcast and YouTube episodes. To do this, click on the links in the description. There's a Buy Me a Coffee link and there's a link in our website. If you click on the link to our website, you will get a 10-day free trial and then you can decide whether you'd like to continue. Alternatively, just buy us a coffee on the link below. $5 a coffee. Thank you for supporting us. Enjoy the episode.
The future of narrow-body airliners is a very debatable question. At the moment, we have the Airbus A220 and the A320 family, the Boeing 737 family, and the Embraer E175 or E195. So what is a narrow-body airliner?
Well, a narrow-body airliner is an aircraft with a single aisle and is generally used for short to medium-haul routes. A narrow-body aircraft or single-aisle aircraft is an airliner arranged along a single aisle permitting up to 6 abreast seating in a cabin below 4 meters, which is 13 feet of width.
At the moment, the Boeing 737 MAX aircraft are giving Boeing trouble due to the extended grounding. Meanwhile, Airbus is doing much better because they just released their Neo versions and the A220.
So what does everybody think about the future of narrow-body airliners?
Well, Devarshan, I think it's a very debatable topic like Warwick mentioned. And everybody in the industry is really going to try make a more fuel-efficient, more effective narrow-body airliner. And it's such an interesting topic that we thought we'd include it in this week's episode. So the 737 MAX. Where on earth can we start? The aircraft has been grounded for, I think, more than a year now. In fact, it's been so long. And they recently went on its air directive and airworthiness tests, and the results are still unclear. But recently, the Boeing 737-800, which hasn't really had many issues, also had to go do an emergency AD, airworthiness directive. And that was issued by the FAA. So Boeing are really not in a good state. But Warwick, what do you think?
Well, I agree that Boeing isn't in a good state, especially because of the problems with the MAX at the moment, I mean, it's also such a shame for them. And, I think they must be looking at creating a new narrow-body airliner like the A220, because there's not much in its class. It's like it's by itself. And then, of course, you've also got you've got to look at the redesign of the 737, or completely dumping it and creating a new plane or aircraft, because the problems with the 737 is just they want to make it more fuel efficient and everything, which means that they've got to create bigger engines and fans, and because of the size of the 737 engines and how low it is to the ground, this is quite a problem for Boeing.
So I think as Kabir said, it's a very interesting topic. And back to what you said of developing new aircraft, I think it's going to be so interesting because there's no way to accurately predict what anyone's going to do. I mean, we thought we'd have flying cars by 2020, but in actual fact, no, we have a device where you can talk to someone from across the world. I mean, it's so interesting, and obviously you can predict, but it's just, we'll just have to see how it pans out. It looks like it's going to be a very interesting journey.
That is very interesting, Tom, that you mentioned. Well, I mean, some people may have seen the movie Back to the Future. I can't remember which it was, but they said in 2020 they're going to be flying cars, and that was kind of the extent of aviation. Now, although we're not there, we're making some headway with other aviation topics, such as like Uber Air, whatever it's called, Uber, are doing their own helicopter service. And it's called, I've forgotten the specific name now, my bad, but it's very interesting because that's looking at taking passengers from the airport to the city and then having this kind of capsule which will, when the aircraft lands, it attaches the propeller system and the capsule drives them to their destination. So this is the future of aviation, right? But COVID-19 has turned this whole thing upside down in one go. And it's really hard to see what the future does hold because currently we can only see now in the present. We used to be able to see in the future, but at least for me, it's very difficult to imagine the future. Does the future mean always wearing masks? Does it mean never going on a plane again? Who knows, right? But slowly we are going to shift out of this COVID-19 crisis. Warwick?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting that you and Tom mentioned like electric cars and stuff. Because, Airbus have got their flying car concept, which they've been working on, which is essentially operated by placing a car body on a set of wheels. And then, you can come get a drone to pick it up. And then it just lifts the car body off the wheels and, puts you onto another wheel and axle system further away. Which, I mean, that's possible. Or that's showing that it is possible. So I think we will see new interesting narrow-body airliners.
Well, what I think is that narrow-body airliners are very what's this word now? It's like productive, I can't really get the word, but yeah, productive. Because instead of buying like a long haul or something like that, narrow bodies are probably the easiest to buy.
Yes.
And they're probably the cheapest.
Yes, that's definitely true because, as you said, they're more productive. They do many more flights per day or even week but the flights are shorter, so they've got to be equipped for more takeoffs and especially landings. And so, like, the landing gear and the durability has to be, top notch. Kubia?
Definitely, Warwick. So this has been a very interesting discussion. And we'll have to wait and see what the future holds for us. London Heathrow Airport is known for many things, but mostly Heathrow Terminal 5. Terminal 5 has been the hub for British Airways for many years. It was solely for British Airways and recently Iberia. However, T5 is now becoming a OneWorld hub.
In the past few weeks, it has been announced by BA's sister airline, American Airlines, that they will be permanently moving to T5. This was a big decision, but ultimately made sense.
A few days ago, Japan Airlines, or JAL, also put out the news that they'd be moving to Terminal 5. Recently, Qatar Airways also moved from Terminal 2 to Terminal 5.
With these major changes, Terminal 5 has become a OneWorld hub.
This is great for OneWorld travellers because changing terminals at London Heathrow can be a challenge.
These major moves have been brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, mostly because of the little demand for travel. This is very exciting news considering that Terminal 5 has been monopolised by British Airways for a long time.
This decision will actually increase demand because it's allowing passengers to fly easier between these airlines.
So what does everybody think about this? Because personally, I'm, very excited because it means that there's going to be, well, number one, there's going to be a much higher demand for travel because it's much easier to stay in one, terminal. So I think it's going to benefit a lot of the airlines involved, such as JAL, Qatar, and United. So it's definitely, according to me, going to benefit, and it's also quite a nice way to recover after COVID, because it's not changing too much in the way that the airlines work. It's just changing a bit in the way which they operate, if you know what I mean. It's not that they're retiring aircraft. It's not that they're having to cut jobs. It just means that they're having to slightly change the arrangement of how they work and which terminal they work from, which, because it's going to make travel from different airlines much more united, if you know what I mean. It's going to be much more together. It's not just going to be British Airways alone in Terminal 5. So what does everybody else think? Kabir?
So, Warwick, that is a very interesting point. And it is going to make travel a lot more unified, united. And having a OneWorld hub, it's such a strategic thing. And it's so interesting to see this play out. But for me, I'm obsessed with OneWorld and British Airways. And BA just has a special place in my heart. And the 747 is just so wonderful. But every time I go to Heathrow, it's such a feast for the eyes, if I could say that as an aviation geek, because you're just looking at this whole terminal full of BA planes, occasionally an Iberia one here or there. And it's going to be sad seeing other airlines take over the space where British Airways used to take it. But I do think it will actually increase demand. It will benefit passengers, JAL, BA, Finnair, American, Iberia. I mean, that's a lot of airlines. And it's really going to be a great thing for Heathrow, British Airways, and OneWorld. Tom?
So I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that, and I totally agree. It's like such a cool thing to see all the BA planes in one spot. But I mean, I really think it's a step in the right direction that they're taking. That, because I mean, it benefits a lot of airlines so well. It's just like, why would you not do it? I mean, obviously, there's going to be no more of that all BA plane section. But I think it's more pros than cons in my opinion.
Yes, definitely. And the reason I think this is such a strategic move is, Heathrow takes a lot of planning. You move from Terminal 5 to Terminal 2, you got to take the transit, then you got to walk, then you got etc. And so in a time where COVID is so bold and you're trying to limit your travel, having all of the airlines in one place is such a great thing, as well as being able to earn points on all of the airlines in the same terminal. So you can go to all of the airlines' lounges, etc. with your points from British Airways, even if you're flying with Finnair or JAL, for example. So it's really great to see, because, I mean, we recently heard that American were joining the pack, and I thought, wow, this is quite a bold move. And it is. But when Finnair, JAL, Iberia, once everything started to kind of collate at London Heathrow Terminal 5, that's when it became a lot more serious. So, Devarshan?
Well, to me, I think that Terminal 5 as a OneWorld hub is a good idea, because, like, as you do say, there's a lot of, like, British Airways planes. Sorry, I'm repeating what Tom and Kabir said. British Airways plane in one spot. So it'll be quite cool seeing a mixture of different airlines in one spot.
Definitely. And it's interesting, from South African perspective, we never have one airline for one terminal, whereas this is completely different. So we'll have to wait and see how this OneWorld hub transforms.
This is an extension of the Aviators South Africa podcast. Find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor and more. Look in the description for the links. Also, please like and subscribe. Happy flying!
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Aviators South Africa. We'll see you next time on next week Sunday, 3 p.m. South African time. Please stay safe, stay home. Together we can beat the coronavirus. Hashtag Stay Home South Africa. To find out more about the coronavirus, visit sacoronavirus.co.za for more information. There's also a WhatsApp support number at 0600-123-456. That is 0600-123-456. Stay safe, South Africa.